Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Rita. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, and you?
I'm doing good.
So I got kicked off because you were bringing me back as a panelist, right?
Yes, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Let's see, I probably need to. There, I am. Hi, Dave.
Hey,
Hi,
guys.
Druvis.
Hi.
Travis.
Hi. All right.
Shelley, with my part of the agenda today, do you want me to run it and share my little PowerPoint, or do you want to do that?
David, if you could do it, that would be great.
That's what I would prefer.
Okay.
Hey, David.
Hey, Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Hi, Rita. Look there, we got Drevis. We got
Hi.
Andrea. Looks like we're gonna have a full house today. I like this. I like this. Travis, you always look so cool, calm, collected, relaxed in your big cushy couch and
My couch, my wall of art.
yes. The rest of us always look like we're in the middle of a firefight someplace.
Someplace at a business working hard. I wonder if that means something for me.
Different times.
That's
different
right.
times.
That's right.
Well, Rita, I have to tell you, we've been missing you.
I have missed you all too. I'm actually home now. We were gone for about just over 3 weeks. I mean, the 1 week we went to visit my aunt, and then while we were there, my daughter called and said she was not doing well, so we came home to get different clothes because she lives in Texas. And so we were there for just over 2 weeks. She's doing a little better now, so hopefully we won't have to go back. But I feel like I've been gone for a long time, and so.
Well, welcome back to the snowy north North America.
Right. I mean, it was actually really cold here when we were down there. But in the scheme of things, it was like 63, which is pretty cool in Texas. I mean, the sun was shining. The weather was better there than here, but I was still freezing cold the whole time.
Shelley, if you've got our roster there handy, why don't we get things kicked off with attendance? Looks like we've got a quorum checked in here.
Sure. Andrea Mannion,
Here.
Amy Gallegos, Dylan Ray, Brad Nixon,
Here.
Travis Ridley,
Here.
Judith Dunlop,
Here.
Nathan Hoag,
Here.
Steve Paul, David Carroll,
Here.
Rita Russell,
Here,
and Darren, we do have a quorum.
All right. Well, that is good news. Let me see, I lost my agenda. Why don't anybody find anything in last month's minutes that wasn't true, wasn't right, that needs corrected?
Did we get sent the agenda? Because I didn't see it in email, so I haven't looked at it.
I didn't see it either, but that doesn't mean that we didn't get it.
Yeah, it was sent out. I'm sorry if you didn't get it.
I'm sure I did. I just need to find it.
I'm sure we can rustle something up and get it sent out.
Brad, if we need to send that out real quick for the membership and then consider that at the last part of the meeting, we can certainly do that. Shelley, are you
Yeah.
comfortable doing that? Is that okay?
Sure.
I got
Great.
mine.
Weird. I don't know. I
Okay.
can't find it.
So it did go.
Yeah, I got mine.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, why don't you send it out? And if we can just provisionally approve the minutes, or I'll accept a motion to approve them ahead of time, because I anticipate we're going to kind of run out of time on the back end with the stuff that David has to present. So I'd like to kind of check the box, please. Any motions to approve, or do you want to wait?
I move that we approve the minutes from April 14th, 2021.
And is there a second? Okay,
I'll second it, Judy.
okay. Thank you. And I guess all those in favor of approving
Aye.
those minutes? Aye, aye. Nathan, you're a wise man. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Since I haven't seen him, I feel strange.
Yeah,
voting
I
for
haven't
that.
either. That's why I'm not
Well-
going to motion.
But I can also trust the word of my esteemed colleagues here. So I don't know what
Good
you're
to know.
supposed to do in a situation like this.
Well, generally they're in order. I think Shelley does a great job of kind of keeping us on track and keep things captured. So I'm
I have no
comfortable.
reason to believe that they are not excellent minutes.
I'll get them
All
sent to you guys.
Thank you.
I did want to turn things over to David. And I think that for the vast majority of this meeting, we're going to be talking about what David's presenting. So let's get to it.
Great. Thank you, guys. Let me share my presentation here with you. Whoops. Do you guys all see that?
Yep.
The screen there? Great.
Yep.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be on the agenda today. I think I've talked with everybody about this idea of ACE and the chamber kind of working together on this. And let me pull this, let me get everybody's view here. I think Drevis, you're the only one that I haven't talked to. I think we tried and just didn't get that to work out. But what I wanted to do and what Brad and both Darren have asked me to do is give a little bit of maybe background on the chamber before we start the discussion and see if that might clear up some questions that people had when I was talking to everybody individually. So I'll just go ahead and move through that. And if you have questions, we can, it won't take us very long, but if you have questions, you want to raise your hand, I'm happy to stop and we can talk as we go through the slides here. So real quick, just wanted to give you let you know who is on the chamber team. A lot of people think sometimes that we have a lot more people than we do, but there's really only 2 of us here, and we are both part-time. Me as the executive director and Lindsay as the director of communications and marketing. Just a little bit on background on me, if you don't know. I grew up here in Colorado. I went to Arapahoe High School. Undergrad, I went to Colorado State, studied computer information systems is what they called it at the time, but they were really looking at if they could take these big mainframe computers, and this may age me a bit, but take these big mainframe computers and use them for business, because they had been using them for science. So this was pre, laptops, pre, desktops, any of that stuff. I later went and got my MBA in nonprofit management at the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University, and have been working in nonprofits, primarily 501c3s. Your chamber is a 501c6 through most of my career. And I've worked in Chicago, upstate New York, Washington, DC, Indianapolis. And so maybe bring a different perspective than others just because of that background. And then Lindsay has, she has 20 years of experience in graphic design and marketing communications. And as I've mentioned, because we're part-time, she also has clients that she works for, developing primarily in the hospitality industry. And she's has clients in Los Angeles, Boston, Dallas, and Chicago as well. So just a little bit of background on us. And then here's your chamber board of directors. Hopefully that you'll see in here, we've got a good subsection of sectors in there, from small business to home-based business, nonprofits, education, government. We are really excited that Andrea has just joined the board as our treasurer, which was a much needed position. So we're excited to have her included. One of the things as well that my board is looking at is expanding our board. And so although this is a great group of people we have now, there is a lot of room still to add more folks on the board. Give you time to look at that. And then one of the
while you're taking a breath there, David, just so you know, we're only seeing the front slide.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Of your presentation.
Oh, it hasn't moved forward?
Nope.
Let's see. Let me try this. Let me try to share again here.
You might be in presentation view.
Okay. Do I need to do something special there to, do you see that slide?
There you go.
All right, so let me see here if I can get over here. You see that? So here was the first slide I had for us. Maybe you didn't see that, me and Lindsay. If you haven't seen Lindsay's face before, I know you've seen mine. And this is our chamber board. So are you guys seeing that one?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So I just wanted to share a little bit about our membership as of last year. We have 212 members, and these are the categories and percentages of totals of each one of those. I thought I'd talk a little bit about just our membership in general and how we see that. According to the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, they do a yearly review of chambers and their membership. Most chambers, again, our size, our budget size, should have around 20 to 25% of the registered businesses in any one area. and Darren, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Darren has mentioned that in Englewood here, we have about 2,100 registered businesses. Is that about right? So if you consider that we should have 20% of that, we really, as a chamber, should have around 400, a little over 400 businesses. So we have a lot of room to grow. Just last year, we added 30 new businesses to our membership. So we are growing, but like any of your businesses, I'm sure you have your customers or in our case, members that you try to retain, and you may lose some customers because they move away or they may decide to go in a different direction, and that happens with us as well, but you're always looking for new customers, and we're always looking for new members. And the other thing I would say about membership, and this comes from probably my 501c3 background, is I don't see, we've talked about it from our board as well, and because we need new members, we don't see the membership as an exclusion of others. These members are just the folks that have supported and are supporting the chamber for all the chamber events and chamber programs that we have. And so looking to expand that membership and including others in there is one of our goals moving forward. And I don't know if there's one area I get a lot of questions for, and we can just look it down there. If you look at manufacturing, you might say, wow, Dave, you've only got 2% of the manufacturing in our community. But one of the things that you find when you look at that report that comes out by the Association of Chamber Executives is that most chambers only have 2 to 3% of the manufacturing base in any one area. So we're somewhat in line with what other chambers represent. And I think part of that as we talk to Manufacturers Edge and some of those others, is that I think that's a hard nut for probably any chambers to find value in that they seem to really move towards their associations and their other membership groups. But I think in most of the categories, our percentages are in line with what other chambers see. But there's always room for growth as that as well. So just that there. And then there has been some discussion about where our membership are, where they reside. Do we really look at the total scope of Englewood? And so what I did was I punched in all the addresses into my Google Maps and kind of got a list here of where many of our members reside. And so you can see in the middle part here, like where our main business district is surely a lot of our members, but we also have members as far west as what am I to the left there? Now I wanted to say Floyd, but it's not Floyd. Federal, yep. And all the way down to Bellevue and University as well. You can kind of see as we scope out that whole side there. So our distribution as well as the number of members does represent a large swath of Englewood. And then the next couple of slides that I wanted to share is just kind of what we do for the business community. And again, what we see the chamber as doing, again, because we always need new members and we always need new people to see value in what we do. Many of these programs may have a member price and a non-member price, but in none of the programs do we exclude non-members. So just a real quick, these are the 4 programs we do every month. The Englewood Leadership Exchange that we talked about, that's our young professionals group. And I think I'd mentioned to you a while back, that's just something we've just recently started. And so it had some momentum before COVID. We had some events planned, and then as we all did, we had to step back our efforts a little bit. And so that group is starting to build up. We just had our first in-person at the Barnhouse Tap just this month, and we had a good group of people showing up, so that was exciting. The other group the other program that we put on is a pure networking event. I shared this one here as our virtual coffee network, just simply because, like all of you and what we're doing right now, we're all doing virtual. But ideally what we do in that is we move from business to business, their brick and mortar space, let them show off their business and gather a bunch of people just to network in general. Our idea lab that you see in the top corner there is what some might call a lunch and learn. We call it an idea lab. It's where we have members teach other members. And so recently we've had, I think I mentioned this, we had one of our HR professionals come and talk to everybody about a lot of these new HR rules that we all have to follow in employment and some of those areas. And so that was eye-opening for a lot of people, as well as had some of the marketing. We had a marketing member come business really talk about Instagram for business, which I'm still a little dubious of whether Instagram is for business or not, but they gave their case and why we should all be looking at that and how we should be addressing that. And then our thought co-op is an area where we try to talk about the latest conversations around 3 areas: workforce development, economic growth, and transportation. And so to give you an example, the program that we have at the end of this month is we've asked the folks at the city, I think it's the civic engineer or something, to talk about the Hampton and Broadway redevelopment, that interchange redevelopment, if you haven't heard about that yet. In large part, just also to share, was that came from businesses along that Broadway corridor reaching out to us, and in some cases maybe a little worried about what does this mean for my business, right? If they're going to shut that whole place down and that's how my customers get to my business, how long is that going to take? Or businesses are concerned about how that redevelopment is going to look to make sure that those cars have an easy access to their business. So that's some of the programming, again, that we do monthly. And then the other is, how do we promote? And what I mean by that in large part is, how do we not only promote the chamber's businesses, but how do we promote the business in general? And so I just thought I'd try to share a couple of the areas that we use. We do have a website, as you probably all know. I indicated here, we get 1,600 unique views per month. Our total views per month are around 2,400, but those 16 is what we capture from Google Analytics that tell us that those are new people coming to the website every month. We do have a email subscription. We use MailChimp. Right now we have 525 subscribers. We continually are looking at the growth rate of that and try to meet benchmark and have met benchmark on our growth rate on all these channels here. But what I indicated here that I thought was interesting as well, that might be interesting, is our open rate at 33.6. That's our average open rate. When you look at the benchmark for open rates for chambers and nonprofits in our area, it's around 25%. So we're kind of proud of the fact that we've got more people opening and at least listening to what we're saying. Nobody gets 100%, or if you do, that would be really amazing. I'd love to talk to you about that. Our Facebook, we have right now 797 followers. That seems to be one of our biggest growing social media. And then I'm sure, like many of you using your Facebook for your business, you realize that the followers that you have, when they share your content, your reach, quadruples. And so our average monthly reach for many of our posts are around 6,500 per month. And some of the things that we do on that, you may have seen if you follow us, is we do a business of the week kind of highlight. And so when we're doing that, a lot of our followers will pass that along. And as the business passes it along to additional followers, as you know, Facebook captures all the views that are seen on Facebook. So that's kind of somewhere we've got. Our Instagram, again, we have an Instagram account. We do it mainly because a lot of businesses have Instagram accounts and they follow us, and we try to follow them and share what they're doing. You can see our growth rate is astronomical. I'm still not sure how we're using that to convert people into or share more things with them, but we do have that. Our LinkedIn account is probably the least active with only 125 followers. And then really through COVID, if you haven't I think I've mentioned this a couple times, we started during this pandemic, we started a YouTube account, largely in part that we put a lot of our programs, we will capture those, record those via Zoom, and then put those out on our YouTube channel, which we have right now. I think we have 32 videos on there. So our 9 subscribers, I think what's really interesting with that is our average views was around 62 per video. So all of this together not only helps promote the chamber, but helps promote businesses in Englewood. And that's how we do that.
David, you actually have 502 Instagram followers as of right now. Just so you know. You broke the 500 mark.
All right, that's fantastic. You'll have to tell me what that means again, but I
don't know that I can tell you. I can sound really confident and tell you what it means without really knowing for sure.
I still am at a loss of that, but I know it's important, so we push that out there. The last thing, or this other part here, is probably something that we're not as well known for, is our advocation, or how we advocate for the businesses. And in large part, I say that's because my board and my leadership through the chamber, we've taken what I call a kind of Facebook approach to advocating, in that we don't pick a position and then start kind of, screaming and yelling at people that they have to listen to our point of view. I don't know if you see that on Facebook. It seems to me that that's part of the Facebook rants that we see. But instead, what we do is we listen to our business members, and we reach out to both city staff and council members to help, further these types of efforts. And so, just to give you a real quick, the third-party food delivery, when that came up, it was some of our restaurant businesses that said, hey, we saw this happen in other cities in Denver and Aurora. They've reduced some of those fees. We reached out again, not only to our member businesses, but to all the restaurants and bars that we had that serve food that we had in our database, because two council members had reached out to us and said, we generally understand what this is about, but we'd like to hear first rate from a lot of the businesses and what they think, and why we should move forward with that. And then after that, after receiving that feedback, we emailed every council member and some staff and let them understand, this is what we're hearing from the businesses. We understand you have to make your own decision, but this is the reason why we're asking you to consider this. The two others that I think maybe people don't realize that were maybe more of a challenge than they seem to be, was both the nonprofit COVID and the home-based business. And I think probably many of you know, I mean, in some cases, know that within traditional city economic development, and Darren, please correct me if I'm wrong here, nonprofits and home base aren't in that traditional base. But here's what happened for us, in that after this city had done such a wonderful job, and you'd heard that from some of the business owners, that during this time period of pandemic had been receiving grants, we got calls from the nonprofit and our home-based businesses, and it said, we're happy for them and we're glad that they're doing that, but hey, we're still struggling too, and we're going to need some help to make it through this. Is there any way we can find some way to help those two sectors? And so we, again, reached out to city and reached out to different people within the city staff and asked if that was possible. And I just share this to say, as I'm sure you understand, this is how many times this works. At first, we were kind of said, well, we don't think that this is traditional business, and we kept coming back and we kept having those respectful and friendly conversations, and kept changing our message to a point that said, maybe people need to understand this is the point we're making, and this is how we're moving forward. And so it was the result of that, those two conversations, or many conversations, that those two grants got put into place. And I will say on the home-based, and I know you guys, at one time, we talked a little bit about home-based grants and how or home-based, and how the chamber really sees this as maybe the incubator for startups. And so I was in a meeting with Marcia from SBA. It was chambers, mainly chamber executives and her. And one of the things that I think we were very proud of is in that meeting, and she didn't call me out or anything, but she said to all the other chamber members, listen, if you guys you ought to look at what the city of Englewood is doing, because the city of Englewood gets it, that these home base you're going to need to keep them around for multiple reasons, but one specifically because these become your later startup businesses in a community. And I know all of you know that, but I think, again, that shows just that it wasn't a common belief, and that it's the chambers that reach out and try to make some of those happen. The business grant for marketing and consulting, which you've probably seen, which is that $1,000 grant with the consulting fee. Maybe some of you have taken advantage of that. That was really kind of started with a conversation with myself and our city manager, Sean Lewis. And then a couple of the others you've mentioned, the developer and the former Sports Authority headquarters has reached out, and we're trying to help, advocate for more housing, and housing that from our point of view and from what we're hearing from our hospital sector, as well as the restaurant and bar sector, is that we need more housing in our community that is more affordable. That they're finding a hard time at the time. I'm sure some of that has changed. We're finding a hard time filling positions for all different kinds of reasons, but that there wasn't any place for people to live in our city. That many people were living in Westminster and elsewhere because there was cheaper housing and we needed to move forward. So that was another advocacy issue that the chamber took on. And then you may have heard this, there is some, when the executive, I think they're emergency orders, if I'm saying that right, go away, because these were emergency, I think the emergency ordinance goes away. These are emergency orders. Many of these emergency orders will go away, that are the outdoor heaters, the temporary shelters, the alcohol consumption district. But we've recently heard a lot from the businesses, both restaurants and bars along that strip where that area is taking place, that would really love for those, if possible, to stay in place. And so again, we've reached out to all our council members and some staff, seeing if that's possible and having those conversations. And then, as I'd mentioned before, real quick, we are only a 2-person staff, maybe a 1-person when you combine the 2 part-times to make us 1. And so a large part of trying to be effective as a chamber in our city is to partner with other folks. And so this is just an example of some of the things that have happened recently. I don't know if you guys have seen our early webinar early on in this pandemic, when all of those requirements to have touchless payment systems and keep everybody 6 feet away and doing all the things that we have never, all of us as business had never had to do before. The businesses really reached out and said, what does that mean? How does this look? This is not something that I typically do. We put together a 4-part webinar series with the city of Englewood to reaching out to businesses in those areas that had those expertise and had and put together this little webinar series that really in large part started our YouTube channel. The chamber was an initial kind of partner in that Downtown Matters, the DDA. It was the city coming to the chamber and asking, we've got this idea of this DDA. We think it's a great idea. We'd like to, share that idea with our the businesses in that area. Could you help us begin to have those conversations? And the chamber put together a lunchtime event and an evening event. We had about 30 people show up at each, and the consultants and the chamber and others kind of put on their dog and pony show and shared a little bit more, and really started to kick off that effort. And then the other two that I just highlighted real quick that were important, the partnership again with the city and Arapahoe Community College. The chamber was out there finding speakers for the displaced worker boot camp. And then when we were hearing a lot of people had lost their jobs and were trying to find new employment, this partnership again with the city and Arapahoe Douglas Works, we found employers, the chamber found employers for the virtual job fair. And I think on that, I think we have like 200 people show up, 200 workers, I think, Darren, show up to find jobs. And Arapahoe Douglas Works did a great job of controlling the Zoom and creating rooms and doing all of those things. And so that's again how we try to maybe be a little bit bigger than we are by finding these partners and listening to what our business and our workforce needed at the time. And then last of all, is I just wanted to reiterate, one of the other things that we do is these signature events. And in some cases, they may be seen as, for example, the annual awards banquet and the golf tournament as purely chamber events. And in some ways they are, but we celebrate our city and create networking opportunities. But I would argue, and I think many of you have seen as well, and I was on the very beginning of the block party and the murals and mason jars, which the chamber put together, that many of these events are also an element of our economic development, in that when we have these events in the city center or wherever we decide to do them, and we are bringing people from all over our city, as well as Denver and Golden and Littleton to our city, that our businesses benefit in a large way, not only through exposure, but through revenue generation. I was told from some of the businesses on Broadway, and I realize that's only one subsection of our city, that if there were 4 block parties a year, they would have their cash reserves would be at such a level that they would never have to really worry from then forward. And so a lot of those programs that we help put together and work with the city on is also a benefit for our city and our businesses. So part of what I guess I'm asking, and many of you have heard me talk about this, is kind of how can we work together? And part of this conversation came from, I think it was me and Darren and Brad Powers were talking about something else, and we got started talking about the DDA. And as Brad, as you know, I've shared this with you, and I knew that Brad and Amy had been elected to the DDA board. And I think there were a couple of other members that were either terming off or moving at some point. So in part, it was the number, just looking at the number at ACE at that point. And I realized that when we all realize that you can add new members, but maybe the time is right at this point to combine the two organizations. And so after having some conversations with Darren, I just spoke with Sean, our city manager, and explained to him the process, and he's in general agreement, if you are all in agreement, that maybe maybe this would make sense at this time. And what we're proposing for you to all consider is that we would move ACE into the chamber. In part, that would be a dissolving of ACE and moving that into the chamber. And what that would mean for everybody on the current ACE commission was that everybody would get a free 1-year membership to the chamber. There would be, because you're all in leadership positions at this point, if you were so chose and were interested in, there would be either a leadership position on our board or a committee for the chamber. And that as this commission is done, and also as I know I sit on the Cultural Arts Commission, what we all hope to do at certain times, is to have some kind of yearly or quarterly presentation to council that in this case, I just called it a yearly presentation on the health of Englewood businesses. And that this, we would make that a concentrated effort of the chamber, that every year we would reach out to council and see if we could get on that agenda per their purview to give basically a report on the health of Englewood businesses. And so what I was, like I said, many of you, I talked to you before already. I seem to get a sense that maybe this was of interest. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what the chamber did and this proposal. And it's my understanding, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, to move this forward, if you so chose, you would have to make a motion and vote on that motion unanimously to move that. And then what would happen from there is city council would consider that motion and either vote to accept it or not. Is that correct, Aaron? Or Brad, if either of you know that that's true?
That is my understanding, David, that if we are so inclined to agree to the proposal, then a little discussion about how that would happen and put it in the form of a motion and then vote on it.
And we need a unanimous vote in order to move it to council, or a majority?
Well, I would say majority speaks, or excuse me, unanimous speaks volumes to council. Majority would get it, I guess, get it out of the proposal state into active consideration by council. So
yeah, I agree. I think unanimous would be better, but I was just curious technically if we have to have a unanimous agreement in order to do that.
Nathan, that's correct. A simple majority would move the item forward.
So that's kind of my dog and pony show, folks. I'm open to have any answer any questions and on the chamber, or how this might look or might be proposed. I mean, how we could work, and we're, to be honest, open to other suggestions on how this might look, or adaptation to the proposal. But I just wanted to bring it up at this point because it just felt like maybe this would be the time to discuss this and see where you all felt.
So is there any discussion here? Travis, I'm going to pick on you since it sounds like you didn't get a chance to have some one-on-one time with David.
I did.
I'll let you fire away first.
Well, I know that there's been several times that David has mentioned in our meetings that some of what we were doing was parallel to what they were doing. And there were a couple times when we were like, well, all right, is this our job or should we hand this over to the chamber? And so I know that there's a lot of crossing of roles in what we're trying to accomplish and what the chamber is trying to accomplish. So it seems to me that the chamber has a little more power to get stuff done necessarily. Most people, when they go into a city and they want to join a chamber, they look for the chamber on the website or whatever to find that to join in. So there's name branding there that gives them a little more oomph with what they're trying to accomplish. But I sure like the branding, the name branding of ACE, because when people ask about it and I take the time to explain it to them, it almost seems above a level above a chamber in terms of how we are really drilling down on specific businesses or the idea of promoting businesses within Englewood. My only add to that would be to call it the ACE Chamber. And that would just be so that we can maintain that idea of how we are really trying to promote Englewood businesses and that we're an ACE group. And I just think ACE makes it sound so much better. I've worked for a number of people that have worked with chambers, Denver, St. Louis, actually former Secretary of HUD under Carter. Name branding, when you go in and you work on that chamber, sometimes having just a little moniker on it really makes it stand out. And I know when people hear what ACE means, that takes it a level higher. And I'm just wondering if we can add that, make that part of it. Otherwise, really, we are doing a lot of what chamber likes to do. I think we may have a little more flexibility because we're under the wire, but to put it all together, to me, I mean, common sense, I think eventually it would have happened anyway.
Travis, would you be open to having a ACE committee or subcommittee within the chamber
Do you
to
think
keep
that?
that name?
Yeah,
go ahead.
your background is purely golden when it comes to the position you're playing here or working out of. My thought is just, the name branding, just to make it sound really good for those people coming in and looking at how Englewood treats its businesses. If it works better to do it that way, fine. Whatever helps you help the businesses is what I want to do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rita.
Thank you very much, Brad. And I want to weigh in. What I have to weigh in is just for your consideration. Whatever this board decides to do, and if you choose to move it forward to council, but I just want to give you some of my thoughts on this. I do want to tell you that the ACE committee, don't remember if I've been on this since I first got on council, but I've been on it probably at least 4 years or more. Under the leadership of Andrea Mannion and Brad Nixon, this committee has done amazing things for this city and for the businesses. And you've all done it because you're volunteer workers. You are representing really the business community to the city and the city to the businesses. The chamber and ACE really have two different functions. Drevis, you are absolutely right. The chamber in any city is designed to represent the city in the fact that the chamber works with the businesses, and then the businesses themselves group together to support the chamber because it's to their advantage for the Chamber of Commerce to represent the city all across the United States, really, in the world, for people that want to come here for whatever reason. It is very difficult. The chamber does have some pull in making those suggestions to city council. But I would purport to you that the ACE committee has a lot of authority when they do the things that you've all been doing to represent the different aspect to the city. Now, I know that David has shared that members and non-members alike have the same access to the committee, but it costs money to join the Chamber of Commerce. And the bottom line is you all, once you move over to the chamber, you're getting the membership for the first year. I think this is a huge conflict of interest for these two committees to join together. The ACE committee members are members that are nominated by city council. The chamber board is totally independent. The chamber board is appointed by the chamber itself. And I think that the chamber has a liaison seat on the ACE committee board for this very reason, so that you all can work together to do things. And I will guarantee you that the ACE committee had a significant influence and impact on COVID in this city because of the amount of hours that you as volunteer members called businesses to find out what they needed and had places to go. I am very concerned that once this changes, that the ACE committee will no longer have that impact. And so in my opinion, it is a conflict of interest. And I think that you all ought to consider that. But like I said, whatever you choose to do, you can move this forward, but council will have the final say. So I'm just sharing my thoughts with you for whatever that's worth. Thank you.
Councilmember Ruff, could you expand a little bit more on the conflict of interest? Did you see? What does that mean to you?
The conflict of interest is now the board members on ACE, or the board members on ACE, yes, are volunteer workers, and they are representing the city. They're representing the businesses. Actually, they're representing the city to the businesses and trying to get help for the businesses. The chamber, the conflict of interest is that the chamber is interested in promoting the chamber, and
I would disagree slightly with that. If
Okay.
we only promote the chamber, then we're going to go out of business. In that, if we have to provide value to the businesses in Englewood for them to even see us as valuable, right? And that we are a representative of all the businesses in Englewood. And if we don't do that, then we will go out of business. So I understand what you're saying. I think there is a part of that, though, that we are slightly different in that we are an independent voice, right? From we are not tied to the city at all. And so we can, as I'm sure ACE can too, we can disagree with the city, we can agree with the city, but we do that on behalf of all businesses in Englewood. If we stop doing that, then we'll lose our membership and we won't exist.
Well, and I do agree with that. So before you came into this position, was the membership any different in the chamber? I mean, did you gain members? Did you lose members? What happened when the leadership changed?
So I think in part, you always lose some members. I won't get too much into weeds with this, but a successful chamber needs to retain 90% of it should retain 90% of its members. And then it has to, and it's sort of like any business, right? You need to retain most of your customers and bring in new customers to grow. So we probably lost maybe 10%. I think the first year we lost 10%, but we didn't bring in a whole lot of my first year. This last year, we didn't retain as many, but we brought in a lot more. So this last year we had 38 new businesses come join the chamber because of many of the things that they saw we were doing during the pandemic. I think what the previous chamber, and maybe what you're referring to, did see membership, because our membership numbers of around 200 have never changed, saw membership maybe as more of an exclusive club. And in part of that, I would say that strategy led to a chamber that stayed the same with its 200 members through the entire period. If we see it as an exclusive club, we will never grow. That's why I was saying we have to expand the value that we provide for all members, all businesses within the area, so that hopefully those businesses see value in what we do as the voice of Englewood's business community, and either join not only the chamber, it's no different than having new customers, right? Or support us by coming to our programs. But you're right. If we didn't listen to the businesses and we didn't speak on their behalf, we wouldn't exist because there wouldn't be any purpose really. It's
Right.
not, I don't have that sway of a club. I'm too new to Englewood. I don't have.
Well, and I didn't really know what the membership was. I just know that in attending chamber events, there seemed to be more. Now, I didn't know. That's why I asked this question about the membership. So I mean, at some of the, like the Christmas parties and things like that, was that for members only?
It probably was. That was your old chamber. And what
Right.
I'm proposing is that there's a new leadership and there's a new vision. And
Right.
part of that vision is we need to be more inclusive of everybody, because if we aren't, we're not going to exist.
Right, I agree with that. And here's my concern there also is that part of the reason for suggesting combining the board, because you know that the chamber is in trouble. I would suggest to you that the ACE committee could be even more effective in helping the chamber grow by leaving them the ACE committee and then continuing to work together. So that's just my suggestion.
And if I misspoke, I didn't mean to suggest the chamber is in trouble. I just meant to suggest that we have to be responsive to those business members, because if we aren't, there's no real reason for us to grow. I mean, or us to even exist, right? If we aren't responsive to the business members. But I understand what you're saying. Yep.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I'm just sharing my thoughts on this.
Yep.
So, all right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nathan, go ahead, Nathan.
Thanks. It's funny when David and I talked about this a while ago, this idea is something that I had thought of prior to us even having a conversation about it. I didn't even know it was feasible or possible, but I'll just kind of say that I'm in favor of this idea. And the primary reason is because there have been multiple times over the years where ACE has gotten to a point where we have an idea or something we want to pursue. And because we're purely an advisory board, and so our job is to advise city council, we don't oftentimes have the resources or even the authority to carry out some of the ideas that we have. That isn't to say we can't do anything. We have done some things, and I'm proud of some of the things that we've done. But there've been, I mean, you all can remember times where we've said, well, I guess that's something the chamber is going to need to do. Or actually, I think probably more accurately, we've said something along the lines of, I think the chamber is actually more equipped to do, whatever it is, the idea that we had. And so, and I don't know if I have my history straight on all of this, but when ACE was developed and designed, I believe that at that time, the chamber was fairly weak in the city. I don't know, again, I'm not 100% sure on my history on that, but, and so ACE was really, I think even more necessary then. And as the chamber has grown in its efficacy and its strength, I think that has made ACE less of a necessity. Now, I would also say, I don't think that means that ACE is not necessary or obsolete, but I do think that if we were to be absorbed by and even have a specific committee for ACE by the chamber, I think that would actually maybe be a more effective way to carry out some of the things that we want to do. It would be different if the chamber was weak and ineffectual right now, but I don't think that's the case. I think the main thing we stand to lose is possibly just our advisory connection to city council, which is the primary purpose of our board. And so, if I was going to make any sort of suggestion to this proposal, and David and I talked about this, but just either increasing the frequency by which we could be in front of council making suggestions, or keeping that sort of pipeline of communication open between us and council, so that we can honestly say to the businesses around here, we are advocating for you to city council, which is really the primary strength of a council advisory committee. So all that to say, I'm in favor of it. I really think it would be an efficient decision. And I think it would give us an opportunity to pursue some of the things that we've had ideas for because the chamber has the ability to actually carry those out. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, who else? Go ahead, Andrea.
I know when I was talking to David about it, I also brought up the fact that, and I don't know if this is more of a pro or a con of ACE, but we'll see what you guys think. That being an actual city board, like, I don't know if the businesses are more comfortable with that or they're not, you know. I know some have come to our meetings and discussed city issues they had with licensing and whatnot. And so did they do that because we were a city board and they thought we had leverage to change things within a city? Or do you think most businesses were scared to come tell us the truth because we were kind of attached with that city, you know, vibe going on? So I don't know which way it is, because I mean, it could be an advantage, you know, being a city board when business owners might think that we might actually be able to change something because we are part of the city, we're going to council, etc. Or do you think it's more of a con and that they're really scared to tell us about city issues because we are part of the city board? Whereas if we were part of the chamber, I don't know if they'd be more upfront with telling us issues like that because we weren't connected with the city. So that's something that I thought about.
If I could, I have had that conversation a couple of times with Sean and I don't know if I have a regular monthly meeting with Sean, and in large part, his belief that setting that up, he set that up early on when he first got here, was that in his experience, and I think he said this at a meeting we were at, oftentimes people will not come to the city as often because they want that relationship to stay, but they'll come to the chamber and they'll say, dang it, this isn't working, or this isn't working. And then if we are responsible and we are respectful, then we can share those things in a way that doesn't get, you know, the business, XYB business, in trouble. We just share, there are businesses that are concerned with this, and we can begin to have that conversation. We've done that. I will tell you that has happened probably in my 2 years here, probably 8 times. I've got another one that I've got that just happened yesterday, about the new alleyways, that there's a whole big thing on that, but that they reached out to us and said, hey, this could be a big problem. Is there any way we can work together to work with the city to make that happen? So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it does seem to be somewhat of a reality that maybe they're more comfortable coming and screaming at me than they are city staff. I don't know, maybe not.
I need to break in because we kind of have a hard stop at 2:30. I feel like that the discussion is good. So let me suggest that we table the discussion and we pick up more discussion in our June meeting, so that we can be responsible here in evaluating something as considerable as this. And, you know, I think there's probably some more things now that we've heard the fullness of your proposal, David, that maybe we can ponder upon and that we can have a more, you know, direct conversation on. Rita, I appreciate your comments as far as the role relative to the city council. And I think it would just be best if we would hold on that. I'm just the chairman, so we're all members in this. So if anyone disagrees, you are welcome to offer up, you know, any type of, you know, counter proposal to that.
Brad, you're suggesting we hold off on making a motion to vote on this until our next meeting. Is that right?
Well, if we did have a motion and were asked to vote, I would just say I would feel uncomfortable casting a vote at this point in time, because I don't think everyone's had a chance to comment. And it's 2:30 now, so if we had another 30 minutes or so, we might be able to accomplish it. But I think we had hoped that we would be able to work through all of this in an hour. Maybe that was naive.
Well, don't we have to put on the agenda when we're gonna vote? We can't just bring it up without it being on the agenda, correct?
This is the topic that's on the agenda, so there wouldn't be need to, that's only for bylaws, Andrea, and changes to documents of that nature. But this is a recommendation, which is ACE's role, a recommendation to city council. So this could go forward with simply a motion.
I'm happy to, I can, if you have my connection, my contact information, I don't know if you all have it, but if you do, happy to reach out if you have additional questions so we can talk this through.
I have one more question real quick, and I know we're at that hard stop, but does this sever then the ACE's role with city council? Because I think that's actually very important.
It would abolish, I guess, or however you want to say it, ACE.
Okay.
And so what I'm suggesting.
Sorry, but it's not, that's not to say that we wouldn't still have an opportunity through the chamber to interact with council and city manager and staff. Is that right, David? So
Correct.
it doesn't cut off the contact, it cuts off our role with ACE because ACE wouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And what I would say, and what I, maybe we could delve in deeper and I could share that is, through my 2 years, I've probably had 15 times where city council members have reached out to us and we've reached out to them. So the chamber right now is having a lot of those conversations. And oftentimes that city council is reaching out to us and saying, I'm considering this, a member of city council is saying, I'm considering this. Can you get me businesses together so I can have that conversation about whatever that thing is? So I don't see it losing anything. You might be gaining a little bit more in that the number of times that council is coming to the chamber and asking, council members are coming to the chamber and asking for help with a certain issue.
Guys, I do need to call the meeting to close so that we can honor the time that we have. And I do need to go to my next Zoom call. So I'm not going to be able to participate in any more of the discussion. So with that, I'd just like to call for an adjournment, and then we pick this back up. Maybe we can offline talk about how we can actually frame this up so the discussion is worthwhile and it leads us to some kind of decision. But with that, I would like to say let's adjourn.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Hey, Darren, can I ask you a quick question?
We're adjourned. Let's take it offline, Andrea, if we can.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
will.
Guys.